Starting our list right, we have a time vortex. In 1970, Floridan pilot Bruce Jernon Jr., his father and friend were flying towards Bahimi Island in the Bahamas. They noticed a rather unusual crowd, to which he referred to as an electronic fog. This is where it gets weirder. When they entered the fog, it became dark very quickly, resulting in little visibility. They would notice these bright white flashes getting progressively worse as they went further in the tunnel of smoke. Navigational tools such as their compasses would begin to malfunction by spinning around rapidly, similar to that of Christopher Columbus when he was around the same area. They would come to the quick conclusion that they needed to escape this fog, but once they did, air traffic control towers detected them over the Miami beach, which would be physically impossible, as his last possible known location was in the Gulf Stream, which is over 100 miles away, which would mean he would have had to travel at nearly 2,000 miles per hour, which is not possible. In our number 9 spot, we have the Ellen Austin. The Ellen Austin was a 210-foot American multi-masted ship. In 1880, the ship was set for New York. However, weeks into its travel, it came across an unidentified ship drifting just north of the Bermuda Triangle. Since the unknown ship wasn't sailing, the captain of the ship ordered a crew to check out the mysterious vessel. When they had boarded, no one was to be found. No signs of violence, nor any signs of the ship's logs. They would attempt to bring the unknown ship back to New York, but would be interrupted by a fierce storm which separated the two ships. After a few days, the captain of the Ellen Austin would spot the ship drifting aimlessly again. They sailed towards the ship once again to find out the ship was empty, with no sign of the crew he had sent, no sign of struggle or distress. This ship was then marked as cursed to the crewmates, but the captain, being oblivious, would still want to seize the opportunity and order another group to sail it. As they set sail with both ships once again, the weather turned poor and separated the ships again, with the ghostly ship disappearing for good. Imagine sending out another group of men to sail this boat after the first group of men perished out of existence. Taking our number 8 spot, we have the Flight 19 mystery. In 1945, the United States sent a group of 5 torpedo bombers known as Flight 19 over the Bermuda Triangle for navigation training. As the bombers flew out over water, all 5 bomber planes would disappear, along with all 14 airmen. In one of the last radio messages received, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, the flight commander, reported, "We are entering white water. Nothing seems right. We don't know where we are. The water is green, no, white." Some have speculated that aliens use the Bermuda Triangle as a portal to our planet, where they would capture humans along with our technology to conduct further research on our species. This could be one of the reasons for the disappearance of Flight 19, but we will never know if there's an interdimensional portal without going in it first. At number 7, we have the USS Cyclops ghost ship. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops, one of the Navy's biggest fuel ships, marks the largest loss of life in the history of the US Navy in a single incident. In March 1918, this massive ship set out to sail from Brazil to Baltimore through the Bermuda Triangle with about 309 crew members on board. Once they set off, no signs of issues were reported by the ship. However, the ship was never heard from again. An entire search of the area was put into action, but nothing was ever found. What was odd was that the captain of the USS Cyclops never sent out a distress signal. Ships and planes that traveled through the Bermuda Triangle have said they have spotted this large naval ship still sailing within. But every time they attempt to get closer or contact the ship, it would begin to vanish out of thin air. The USS Cyclops was a rather large ship, which makes this ghostly sighting eerie. At number 6, we have a government testing ground. It is believed by a few that the Bermuda Triangle is actually a testing ground for some governments that border the Atlantic Ocean. It's said to test their advanced technology ranging from underground nuclear bombs to specialized vehicle and weapons. It is said that the governments attempt to add this negative stigma towards the Bermuda Triangle for the sole purpose of keeping people away from their testing grounds. Secret government involvement could explain the disappearance and fairly odd phenomena that occur within the triangle. Right in the hump of our list, we have sea monsters. Could something be lurking in the depths of the triangle that could explain the disappearances? Well, there is a massive sea serpent said to roam in the Bermuda Triangle called the Bermuda Beast. The Bermuda Beast is described as a massive sea creature that is 4 times larger than the Eiffel Tower, making this the largest creature to ever exist if it was truly found. The Bermuda Beast could be the explanation for the missing ships and planes, since it is said to leap out of the water and snatch ship and planes. If that doesn't sound convincing, something? Remember that only 5% of the oceans are discovered, which makes the ocean just as mysterious as the Bermuda Triangle. Who really knows what lies under? Enchanting our number 4 spot, we have the witchcraft. No, there are no witches on their little witch boats in the Bermuda Triangle. However, this story is just as odd. On December 22nd, 1967, a 23-foot luxury yacht named the Witchcraft left Miami with her captain Dan Burrock and his friend Father Patrick Horgan. The plan was to view the Christmas lights from the water, but after reaching a distance of only 1 mile off the coast, the Coast Guards would be notified that the ship had hit something. After reaching the yacht's last known location, it was nowhere to be found. The weird part was that the ship was theoretically unsinkable with an arsenal of life-saving devices ranging from lifeboats to flares. As well, Captain Dan Burrock was a cautious yachtsman, making the disappearance surprising to those who knew him. The yacht is reported by some ships to be drifting through the Devil's Triangle, but no one has wanted to sail close enough to figure out the true mystery of the witchcraft. At number 3 of our list, we have Mary Celeste. On the fateful day of December 5, 1872, Mary Celeste set sail from New York Harbor to carry cargo to Italy, but unfortunately, the ship never made it to the destination. After several search and rescue efforts, the ship was found adrift in Bermuda Triangle, but none of its crew of 11 people were found. Personal belongings, food containers, precious cargo, and lifeboats were still on the ship. As well, rotten food was found on board and foul play was not detected throughout the whole ship. The boat was basically still seaworthy, for it had seemed that everyone just disappeared without a single piece of evidence, almost as if they all jumped off on the ship and just abandoned it. Since it had ended up in the Bermuda Triangle, it can be said that it has become a product of its curse. The famous Atlantis takes our number 2 spot. The infamous sunken city is believed to be situated within the Bermuda Triangle. Atlantis was said to be surrounded by hundreds of thousands of crystals that radiated large amounts of energy. Their energy radiating from the crystals could explain the area's tendencies to disrupt communication systems, compasses, and even completely immobilize ships and planes. Then in 1968, scuba diver J. Manson Valentine discovered a series of laid stones at the bottom of the ocean that appeared as though they formed a road, also known as Bimini Road. Doing further investigations, sci-fi show Quest for Atlantis discovered a second layer beneath that road, which could be more promising evidence of a sunken city. Coming in at our number 1 spot, and don't be disappointed, but it all may just be in our head with no mystery at all. The theory of the Bermuda Triangle having no mystery is definitely something more believable. Scientist Carl Kruszelnicki said that everything could be explained by human error, bad weather, and heavy air and sea traffic. As well, the Bermuda Triangle is known as a high traffic area. Ships and planes go through this body of water every day at all times. And where there are people, there will be incidents. The area is known to be an active hurricane zone with a Gulf Stream running directly through it, making it a place of unpredictable weather. Or better yet, what if the cause for the disappearances was related to the negative stigma attached to the triangle? Basically, what if people went into the area with the preconceived thought that it was dangerous, which would then psych themselves out, causing them to do human error? At number 10, we have Scylla. This is a monster feared for her brutality. Scylla is a very interesting ocean creature in Greek mythology. She is usually beside the Great Whirlpool and is a huge danger to those who wish to pass her waters. Out of all the creatures in Greek mythology, her destruction ranks the highest, no questions asked. But she wasn't always this horrendous monster. In one depiction, she was a beautiful maiden, and the fisherman turned god of the sea, Glaucus, fell in love with her. She wasn't interested at all because of the fishy tail, so he turned to Circe to ask for a potion to change her mind. However, Circe loved him and tried to convince him to forget about Scylla, not wanting to punish the man she loved. Circe decided Scylla would suffer for her humiliation. Scylla was then transformed into a monster who had 6 serpentine heads, as well as the head of hounds spouting from her sides. There is no point of trying to escape her, cause you just can't. She is just too powerful. All the people who tried to pass her are warned, quote, "Sail past, do not engage in a fight, as you will simply not win." At a number 9 spot, we have Qualupalik. The legend of the Qualupalik comes from the Inuit people and their icy Arctic waters. They are actually considered mermaids, but unlike regular mermaids, there is nothing attractive about this creature. These creatures are often depicted having fins just coming out of their heads, back and arms, and their hands are topped with long sharp claws All of this is enough to strike terror into the hearts of the children that the Qualipellic preys upon. Only these children will catch a glimpse of their face, which resembles a woman's face that had just turned green and bloated from rotting underneath the sea. Those who have sighted the Qualipellic report that these creatures can only be seen for an instant before they are gone. But the children victims would not be as lucky. She would leap out from underneath the water, sink her sharp claws into their flesh, and drag them forward into the water. At our number 8 spot, we have Voldenoy. Hey, look at this weird frogman. He doesn't look too bad. I mean, he seems kinda chill. Wrong. This frog-like creature is called a Voldenoy. It is a water spirit in Slavic mythology. He resembles an old man with a long mossy beard and a face that kind of resembles a frog. He resides in various rivers and lakes, and if you decide to go swimming in one of them without doing the sign of the cross, a Voldenoy will drag you down to the depths to become his slave. When he's really angry, he'll break mills, bridges, dams, and so people end up giving offerings and sacrifices to appease him. In northern Russia, it is believed that the Voldenoys have a ruler, Tsar Vodenik, or the Voden Tsar. He is described as an old man armed with a club who can rise to the sky sitting on a black cloud. At our number 7 spot, we have sirens. Originating from Greek mythology, sirens are creatures with enchanting musical voices that lure sailors and unsuspecting people to their doom. They were in fact the daughters of the river god Aeschylus and a muse. Sometimes they're depicted as something similar to mermaids, but in more classic depiction, they had wings. The wings were given to them by Zeus's daughter Persephone after Hades kidnapped her and took her to the underworld. She gave the sirens wings to help locate her. In the oceans, the sirens would sing a song so beautiful that it would lure any kind of man to jump off the boat and swim until the sirens would pull them under or they drowned. At our number 6 spot, we have the Incanyaba. The Incanyaba is a legendary serpent said to be living in a waterfall lake area in the northern forest near Pietermaritzburg. Sorry for the mispronunciation. More commonly in the base of Howick Falls, South Africa. This creature is said to be very large. This creature is said to be a very large serpent, up to 25 feet long, with a horse-like head. It's said they travel in large packs and are carnivorous. They consume almost anything in their paths. It's also said that when they're angry, they cause seasonal storms, more so in the summer months. The Xhosa tribe claims that this creature is said to take flight in the form of a giant tornado to find its mate. They're also associated with unexplained disappearance of domestic animals as well. Right in the hump of our list, we have the bunyip. The bunyip is a creature from the Aboriginal mythology of southeastern Australia, said to lurk in swamps, billabongs, creeks, riverbeds, and waterholes. The name directly translates to devil or evil spirit. Aboriginal peoples used to tell tales of the bunyip that stalked the waterways and ate any prey item that came close. And the creatures had developed a taste for people, mostly children. He is said to be able to alter the water level in his home environment, or he might use ferocious roar to cripple unwelcome visitors. One legend describes the monster hypnotizing a woman and keeping her for several weeks as a slave, until the spell was broken by a large thunderstorm. The amphibious animal was described as having a round head, an elongated neck, and a body resembled that of an ox, hippopotamus, or a manatee. The story originates from the one legend that says that a man named Bunyip broke the rainbow serpent's greatest law by eating his totem animal. Banished from the good spirit, Biami, the man became an evil spirit that lured tribesmen and their livestock into the water so they can eat all of them. What a terrible way to go. At our number 4 spot, we have the serene crone. The serene crone is a monster from Scottish Gaelic folklore. It is a colossal sea monster that can consume anything in the ocean, but likes to toy with its prey first. In some accounts, it could eat up to 7 whales at a time, with the devil being the only one that can slay it. It's also said it can shapeshift into a small fish, so when it gets caught by a fisherman's net, it can return to a regular size and swallow the ship whole. Forbes goes on to say, quote, "It is not known what this monster animal was, but whatever it was, it waged a war in both sea and land, against all and against each other." Now many people believe the Loch Ness Monster is the evolution of this monster, but do you think these two look alike? It could be plausible, but I don't think so. All the way at our number 3 spot, we have the Umibozu. The Umibozu from Japanese lore directly translates to sea monk, and they are black humanoid giants with large glowing round eyes, only seen from the shoulders up. Strangely enough, they only appear when the water is completely calm. But when they do show up, the water changes violently. The Umibozu will attempt to sink your ship either by breaking it in half, or it even may demand you to give it a barrel. It'll use that barrel to pull water into your ship, sinking it slowly. However, you can get around this by offering it a bottomless barrel by cutting the bottom out. It'll get confused, and this is a time you can successfully escape. One theory says that they are spirits of the murdered priests who are thrown into the ocean by Japanese villagers. So it's pretty creepy stuff. At our number 2 spot, we have the Ukiturso. This creature is known as the ultimate savage, and its name directly translates to eternal torso. It somewhat resembles a gigantic octopus because of the tentacles that grow from their body that are both long and have suckers to them like an octopus arm. This creature tends to keep to themselves, but when they're provoked, this creature will grow dragon wings on their back and devour everything in its path. In the legend, Ikutorso is mentioned as the father of the diseases with Luviatar, the blind daughter of Tuoni, the god of death. The Scandinavian giants had the ability to shoot arrows which caused diseases in people. That's a whole different type of warfare. I mean, disease-dipped arrows. All the way at our number 1 spot, we have Cetus. Yet another terrifying and destructive Greek sea monster. Cetus is Poseidon's personal attack dog. Except it's a colossal sea monster again, sometimes that blends dragon and whale together. It is depicted as a large serpent-like monster with a reptilian head or maw. Greek mythology news. Poseidon is kind of a jerk. When the king and queen of Ethiopia dared to call their daughter more beautiful than the Nereid sea nymphs, he got super offended. Therefore, he sent his monster to either destroy the kingdom or devour the princess as a sacrifice. However, the hero Perseus was having none of that. Fresh off his last monster hunt, he is carrying the head of Medusa as come across the chained princess. As the massive beast rose from the sea to devour the princess, he lifted the head of Medusa and turned the colossal beast into stone.
Starting off this countdown at number 10, the Meg. Researchers have pinned the date of the megalodon's extinction to about 2.6 million years ago, roughly when the great white shark was just becoming established. However, a doctor pointed out that the megalodon likely lived in water no more than 200 meters deep, in and around coastal areas. We would, she says, have noticed something of the megalodon's size if it was swimming off our shores, but what if that's not where it's living? Explorers began to probe the Mariana Trench in the late 1800s using rudimentary equipment, but it was impossible to get the full picture of the trench without sending someone down. That's only happened once in history. In 1960, a researcher and US Navy lieutenant took a Navy submarine into the depths. Due to the pressure, they couldn't stay very long, but when they turned on the submarine's floodlights, they were shocked to see fish. Until then, it was thought that no creature could live in such a harsh environment. So who's to say the Meg couldn't live down there?
Over the years, reports of megalodon sightings have emerged all over the internet. A lot of them claim that these giant sharks never went extinct, that they've just been hiding in the deepest part of the ocean, the Mariana Trench.
Now at number 9, new whale. In 2016, marine biologists studying the Mariana Trench heard a strange sound of unknown origin and started recording. Although the recording is only a few seconds long, experts detected a slightly metallic quality to it, and many speculated that the noise was not natural. After months of analysis, however, the scientists believe they found the source of the noise. It's currently theorized that the sound, which marine biologists call a biotwang, is the low-frequency call of a new type of baleen whale. However, that's just one theory. Others say it's still a whale, however it's got shark-like teeth and has mutated into something unimaginable. Here at number 8, sea devil anglerfish. If a fish has the word devil in its name, it's a safe bet that it's going to be freaky, and sea devil anglerfish does not disappoint. It features a whole list of interesting, strange characteristics. As its name strongly hints, this is a fish that would have swum up straight from hell, with its weird body, razor-like teeth, and cold death stare. Although they're bizarre and scary looking, at least they're not huge. Females generally top out at 8 inches long, and the males are much smaller, at maybe an inch long or so. As an anglerfish, the sea devil doesn't dart after its prey. Instead, it has a protrusion from its forehead that dangles a glowing lure to attract unlucky animals. With its huge gaping jaws, the sea devil can actually devour creatures larger than itself.
We believe that this is the first video footage ever made of this species alive and at depth. Eyes of this angler are quite small. In their dark habitat, anglerfish rely more on feeling the movements of other animals in the water around them than on vision. The tiny pale dots you see along the sides of the fish and on its head are organs very sensitive to the slightest movements, and they function very effectively.
Now coming in at number 7, goblin shark. The goblin shark is a rare species of shark. Its unusual and creepy appearance is often described as fossil-like. It has pink-toned skin and a distinctive snout shape. It is elongated and flat, with a protruding jaw and skinny, incredibly sharp teeth. They can grow to be about 10 to 13 feet in length, and they are rarely seen by human beings. It's still unclear what the unusual snout is for, but the older they get, the deeper they dive.
Most goblin sharks are 10 to 12 feet long, but they can grow much bigger.
Here at number 6, telescope octopus. The telescope octopus is a transparent 8-armed octopus that is almost entirely colorless. Their arms are the same size and they are the only octopus to have tubular eyes. It is incredibly unusual to observe and was originally documented by Dr. William Evans in 1885. The octopus is a rare species, meaning there is little that scientists and the general public know about the marine creature, but it's believed to be a close relative of the glass octopus. These eyes provide a wider peripheral vision so that the octopus can see predators and prey alike. Those eyes can also rotate. Talk about scary. Halfway at number 5, fang-toothed fish. These fish could be straight out of a horror movie and are named after their scary teeth that in relation to their body size are the largest in the ocean. Special pouches on the roof of its mouth prevent the teeth from piercing the fish's brain when its mouth is closed. Fang-toothed fish do not have good eyesight and they are believed to hunt by literally bumping into their prey, sensing vibrations and movement in the water. Now at number 4, deep sea hatchetfish. There are a lot of odd looking fish in the sea, but not many of them resemble humans' hand tools. The deep sea hatchetfish resembles a silvery swimming hatchet. There are more than 40 species of hatchetfish. All of them have ridiculously skinny bodies and many of them have shiny scales too, which adds to the metallic hatchet-like appearance. They are small fish and even the biggest types to grow only to about 6 inches long. Their delicate looks contradict their serious ruggedness because these fish are found in depths pushing nearly 5,000 feet. Hatchetfish have bioluminescent bodies and they can alter the brightness of their glow depending on how much light is filtering from above. In doing so, they're counter-illuminating their bodies in a clever camouflage technique. Their dim, self-produced light reduces their silhouettes, making it much more difficult for predators to spot them from below. Now at number 3, comb jellyfish. The comb jelly is a beautiful oval-shaped animal with 8 rows of tiny comb-like plates that it beats to move itself through the water. As it swims, the comb rows break up light to produce a shimmering rainbow effect. Comb jellies are gelatinous creatures with luminous body structures as they diffract any light that falls upon them. They use their comb-like plates to move around in the water. While they please the eyesight, these underwater marvels are vicious predators, even attacking their own kind sometimes. Some may be as tiny as a few millimeters, ranging up to nearly 5 feet long.
Found around 3,000 feet down are the comb jellies. That's light refracting off thousands.
Here at number 2, frilled shark. The frilled shark was discovered in the 19th century by a German who studies fish. It is often referred to as a living fossil due to its eerie appearance and the shape of its mouth. The shark has an eel-like body that's dark brown and gray in color, and the articulation of the jaws to the head. The shark derives its name from 6 rows of frilly gills that grace its body, which grows up to 6 feet long. Just as notably, the shark wields more than 20 rows of wicked, trident-shaped teeth that will tear into any bit of flesh that passes near them. Frilled sharks probably spend most of their lives near the ocean's bottom, and they like waters more than 4,000 feet deep. On the rare occasions that people snag them and bring them up to the surface, the sharks almost always perish immediately, making it very difficult for people to observe their behavior and life cycles. For years, many people assumed that frilled sharks swam and hunted like eels. Now coming in at number 1, zombie worms. Now I know what you're thinking, oh well, how can a worm be scary? Well, let me tell you. Zombie worms are also known as osedox. The word osedox means bone eater in Latin and refers to the worm's ability to dig into and eat bones from whale carcasses. They do so in an attempt to reach lipids enclosed in the bone. They use special root tissues for bone burrowing. So if you ever come near one of these things, I suggest getting as far away as possible.
At a number 10 spot, we have the Michigan Triangle. Well, guess Michigan has their very own version of Bermuda's Devil Triangle, and it contains just as much unexplained phenomena as Bermuda. The triangle goes from Manitowoc, Wisconsin to Ludington to Benton Harbor in Michigan. It was early spring 1937 when Captain Donner was just managing his freighter ship called the O.S. McFarland through these icy waters. He was tired, so he decided to sleep and asked for one of his crewmates to wake him up when they approached shore. As they approached shore, they decided to wake up the captain, but as they looked and they kicked the door down, they noticed that he vanished with no signs whatsoever. Now the triangle claims the lives of many ships and planes just like the Bermuda. They also have sightings of the O.S. McFarland, but as they try to get a closer look, it disappears right into the waters. An odd thing about this place is that when divers go to check the wreckages of the ships and planes, they notice that everything is intact, including the bodies of the deceased and the ship as a whole. This is by far the scariest triangle because there is no way around it other than land. So basically, there's no point of traveling in Michigan's Great Lakes. Number 9, the Orang Medan. In 1947, an American ship picked up a disturbing stress call from an identified vessel. The first transmission was sent using Morse code, and it said, quote, "We float, all officers including the captain dead." The next transmission said the whole crew had perished, and the final transmission said, quote, "I die." The Americans traced the signal back to the ship that was drifting across the Indian Ocean. They quickly assembled a rescue team to go inside of the ship, but they discovered something was very off. When they entered the ship, they found the entire crew had perished in the exact positions as one another. They're all found on their backs with their hands up, looking as if they were fighting something above them. It's also noted that it was a warm weather day at around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but the ship was found to be around 40 degrees. As they were leaving the ship, trying to tow it back, it suddenly exploded and then sank. No one really had an explanation for this. Number 8, the USS Cyclops ghost ship. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops, one of the Navy's biggest fuel ships, marks the largest loss of life in the history of the US Navy in a single accident. In March 1918, this massive ship set out to sail from Brazil to Baltimore through the Bermuda Triangle with about 309 crew members on board. Once they set off, no signs of issues were reported on the ship. However, the ship was never to be heard from again. An entire search of the area was put into action, but nothing was ever found. No remains of the ship or any crew members aboard has ever been found. What was odd was that the captain of the USS Cyclops never sent out a distress signal. Ships and planes that have traveled through the Bermuda Triangle have said that they have spotted this large naval ship still sailing within, but every time they attempt to get closer or contact the ship, it would begin to vanish out of thin air. Number 7, the MV Joyita. This fishing and charter boat was discovered abandoned in the South Pacific in 1955, 5 weeks after it has been reported missing. The ship was 69 feet long and weighed around 47 tons. The air search mission was unable to locate it until a merchant ship found it drifting nearly 600 miles off of its origin, with no signs of passengers, crew members, or even cargo. The life rafts, as well as the firearms and other equipment on board, were completely missing. On the deck, there was a doctor's bag and several bloody bandages, and the broken radio was set to universe distress signal. What happened there, however, was never revealed because none of the crew was ever seen again. It was theorized that something happened in the middle of the sea, causing everyone on board to jump off. But who really knows what happened to these people? Number 6, Beichimo. Beichimo was a Swedish cargo steamship built in 1914. It was used for trade between the Inuit natives of Victoria Island and the settlers of the Northwest Territory. In 1931, Beichimo became trapped in ice and the crew abandoned ship, setting up camp nearby. They briefly reboarded when the ship temporarily broke free, but it soon became icebound again. All but a 15-man skeleton crew were airlifted away, while the remaining crew kept watch over the trapped vessel and its cargo from a nearby shelter. During a violent blizzard, Beichimo disappeared and the crew assumed she broke apart during the storm and sank. However, days later, the vessel was spotted 45 miles away, again trapped in ice, which seemed to be on the brink of sinking again. But this time, Beichimo did not sink, as there was at least 11 reported sightings of the ghost ship over the next 4 decades. The last sighting was reported by Inuit fishermen who spotted her off the Alaskan coast, trapped in ice of course, in 1969, 30 years after her crew abandoned her originally. She has never been spotted again and her ultimate fate is unknown, but if she ever does pop up again, I guarantee it'll make news reports everywhere. In the Humpver list, we have the ghost ship of Plate River. If you visit the Pathfinder Dam on the North Plate River, there's a small chance you might get a glimpse of the ghost ship. It's believed that every 25 years, a death ship appears out of the midst near the dam. The first ever recorded sighting of the eerie vessel was in 1862 when a trapper named Leon Weber reported a large wave of fog, then saying it took the form of a sailing ship with a mast and sails covered in silvery shiny frost. He said he saw people on board, but they're all covered in this shiny frost. Then there was another sighting in 1887 when cattleman Gene Wilson saw the exact frosty ship appear out of nowhere. He would also report people on board, but they're all frozen, and when he went home, he found that his house was burned to ashes and his wife was also found dead. Number 4, North Korean ghost ships. Hundreds of abandoned boats from North Korea wash up on Japanese and Russian coastlines each year. Some of the vessels contain the crew's remains, but they're usually just a pile of bones. These ghost ships are thought to be a result of North Korea fishermen becoming lost at sea and dying from malnutrition or other weather exposure. The ships are typically old and lack strong engines. I mean, it's from North Korea. They're pretty much still living in the 1980s though. However, after an investigation was done, they found that these boats were actually sent out from China as a way for them to fish illegally in North Korean waters, which completely violates the UN sanctions. Number 3, the ghost of Shackleton. In 1915, explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton and his crew set off on a voyage to explore the South Pole. However, before they could make it there, the ship they were on got trapped and crushed by ice. The crew managed to hop on a lifeboat and travel hundreds of miles to safety. Ernest Shackleton miraculously survived, but he didn't stop there. He decided to travel once again, but would pass away this time from a heart attack and was buried on Ross Island in the South Pole. Now, it's said that this hut, which stands to this day, is actually haunted by his ghost. Another polar explorer by the name of Sir Edmund Hillary is known for being one of the first to summit Mount Everest and also travel to the South Pole, having been inspired by Shackleton's expedition. However, when he arrived, Sir Edmund admitted to seeing his ghost as well as the ship that he was on when he got there in the first place. He would recall a lot of the time seeing a ship stuck in ice but no one on board. Number 2, Jenny the Ghost Ship. This is a story of a ship that was found before it was lost. As the story goes, in 1840, Hope came across the ship Jenny completely frozen in ice in the Antarctic Drake Passage. Crew members of the Hope reported that it first looked like a battered ship, but as they approached it, they noticed it was something much darker. The crew saw 7 men standing on the deck of this ghostly ship. However, they were standing frozen solid. The rest of the crew, including the captain, were also found frozen to death in other places of the ship. As they hit the captain quarters, they read the ship's last log saying, quote, May 4th, 1823, no food for 71 days. I am the only one left alive. The ship set sail all the way back in 1823, which meant that it was frozen in ice for almost 20 years. At number 1 spot, we have Marie Celeste. On the fateful day of December 5th, 1872, Mary Celeste set sail from New York Harbor to carry cargo all the way to Italy. But unfortunately, the ship never made it to the destination. After several search and rescue efforts, the ship was found adrift in Bermuda Triangle, but none of its crew of 11 people were found. Personal belongings, food containers, precious cargo, and lifeboats were still there on the ship. Rotten food was also found on board, and foul play was not detected throughout the entire ship. The boat was basically still seaworthy, and it made a lot of people wonder why they even got out the boat in the first place. And it just seemed that everyone just disappeared without a single piece of evidence, almost as if they jumped off the ship and just abandoned it and just started swimming. Since it had ended up in the Bermuda Triangle, it can be said that it had become a product of a curse, but that's if you believe that type of stuff. Starting our list right, we have Jack Sparrow's mom is a cannibal. Not much is really known about Jack's mom, except her shrunken skull that was shown towards the end of the 3rd installment at World's End. However, fans have theorized that Jack Sparrow's mother is actually a part of a cannibal tribe. Jack Sparrow's dad, Edward Teague, was a fearsome pirate with fortune that only few could imagine. But it's believed that he ended up on an island that inhabited the Naga tribe of India. My main reasoning for this is that the Naga's flamboyant use of braids and beads in their hair. Compared to pirates like Barbarossa, Sparrow, and Teague's outfits hold clear tribal significance. No other pirate in the movie has braids like Jack and Ed has. Teague has feathers on the front of his hat, similar to how the Naga warriors would wear on their heads. Also, Jack was said to have been born on a pirate ship caught in a typhoon off the coast of India. It's said that he keeps these traditions with him, and that's why Jack Sparrow looks the way he does. At number 9, we have the iconic Kraken. If you haven't been living under a rock, you should definitely know this mythological beast. In the 2nd installment, Dead Man's Chest, the Kraken was introduced. It attacked the Black Pearl ship, and no matter what the crew does, how many weapons they try to use, nothing can stop it. Eventually, it would bring the whole ship down. The Kraken is not only part of the movie, but a part of Scandinavian folklore. It's said that the Kraken is a sea monster described to look like a giant squid that is around 100 feet in length with gigantic tentacles enough to take down ships whole. To take ships down, the Kraken will sometimes swim in circles around the ship, causing a fierce maelstrom which helps sink the ship. To think that 5% of the world's oceans have been explored, it makes us truly wonder if the Kraken is under there. Coming in at our number 8 spot, we have the Flying Dutchman. Seen in the movies as a ghostly ship, it's said that the very timbers of the ship are cut from the bodies and souls of doomed seamen. According to lore, the Flying Dutchman was originally used to collect the souls of who died at sea and take them to the afterlife. But back in the day when piracy was a thing, many feared encountering the ship in the open oceans. In the movie, the Flying Dutchman would be sailed by the iconic Davy Jones. When I think about him, I think about SpongeBob Davy Jones' locker, but the legend is much darker. The Flying Dutchman was given to Davy Jones by his love, the sea goddess Calypso. For 10 years, he could freely come ashore to meet with Calypso, but as time went by, she would suddenly stop appearing, causing Davy Jones to carve out his own heart and lock it away in Dead Man's Chest. His original duty of collecting souls and ferrying them to the afterlife completely 180'd. and he would end up wreaking havoc among the 7 seas. At number 7, we have the Devil's Triangle. In the 5th installment, Dead Man Tell No Tales, Jack Sparrow is hunted down by his old foe, Captain Salazar, who is a ghost set free from the Devil's Triangle. The Triangle's supernatural abilities revive Captain Salazar and his whole crew, causing him to have vast amounts of power. However, the Triangle is really based on the infamous Bermuda's Triangle. In real life, this body of water is situated in the Caribbean that connects Florida, Puerto Rico, and the country of Bermuda together, making a triangle. Boom, easy geometry. And this place should be avoided at all times, just like in the movie. It holds countless disappearances, including one of a squadron of US Navy bombers who completely vanished in good weather with no distress calls given. This place is shown in the movie and in real life to be a place no one should be going. Falling in at our number 6 spot, we have the fall of the Aztec Empire. In the movie, Orlando Bloom plays Will Turner, who teams up with Captain Jack Sparrow to rescue a loved one, Elizabeth Swann, from a crew of cursed skeletal pirates. The curse that was placed on the pirates was from a real-world figure who caused the fall of the Aztec Empire, Hernan Cortez. He was a 16th century Spanish traveler who was one of the first Spanish colonizers of America. He would move around the Caribbean and would intentionally cause indigenous tribes to battle one another. He would also force many to work for him while stealing gold and treasures from the Aztecs. From all this money and power, he took over the Aztec Empire using the sword of Cortez, which was said to make him unstoppable. And he also claimed the land under the King of Castile in Spain. It's said that he put a curse on his loot, and whoever tried to steal the curse would become damned. Right in the hump of our list, we have Blackbeard. Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, was a famous English pirate who operated in the West Indies throughout the 18th century. Just like in the movies, Blackbeard was a name surrounded by fear and terror. He was notorious for sailing the Queen Anne's Revenge ship, which was a ship that used the bones of his victims, which definitely gave enemies a fair warning before engaging in combat. He would also be very cruel to his own crewmates, even going as far as treating them worse than his prisoners. After being prophesied about his death, he knew that he would have to locate the Fountain of Youth, and with the help of Captain Jack Sparrow, they went out and found the location, only to be met with the British Royal Navy. Blackbeard is quite possibly the greatest pirate to ever exist. Going down the list at number 4, we have Calypso. At the end of Dead Man Tell No Tales, when Davy Jones' heart gets stabbed and his body tossed into the sea, we hear Calypso laughing while she vanishes out of thin air. But who really is this? According to lore, she was the daughter of Atlas, who is the goddess of silence. Being a bored lass, she made it a point in her life to make sure people did not complete their task. She was also known as the goddess of deception because of her ability to distract sailors with her beauty, only to lead them to ruin and destruction because they would fail to pay attention to what they're supposed to be doing. She would be Davy Jones's partner and would be the one telling him what to do and how to do it. Basically, he was I'm just joking. You get what I mean. She was very powerful and could conjure up some of the worst natural disasters possible in the seas. Let's just hope she's still not out there. All the way at our number 3 spot, we have Human Bones in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. This popular attraction is a boat ride that lets guests travel through the world of pirates and real human bones. Well, it was reported that when it was first built, the developers were so strict on the realism aspect of it all that they brought in real human skulls from the UCLA Medical Center to meet their high standards. And eventually, as the technology improved, they began making realistic skeletons instead to replace the real ones, saving them from further controversy. Disneyland states that there are no longer human remains on the ride, but others are convinced, saying that some remains still exist, including the skull on the headboard of the ride. It's definitely creepy to decorate a ride with actual human bones, but we think that Jack Sparrow would approve. At our number 2 spot, we have mermaids. Captain Jack Sparrow first encountered the mermaids in Isla Sirena during his quest for the Sword of Cortez. His shipmates were affected by the Song of the Sirens, but Jack himself remained immune to its influence. Eventually, the situation became worse, and Jack was tricked into handing over the prized possession, the Eye of Stone-Eyed Sam, in exchange for the lives of his crew. Well, mermaids aren't anything new, and in this movie, they show some of their abilities pretty well. For example, mermaids are said to have a list of powers and abilities that sets them apart from other mythological creatures. As done in the movie, they're said to use sirens or their voices to lure sailors to their deaths and control their minds. They are also able to shapeshift between human and mermaid forms, also having the ability to control the weather and water around them. I'm guessing Ariel the mermaid is not as innocent as you think. Or maybe she's controlling our minds to think that she is. Regardless, I'd be dumb enough to fall for a mermaid. Taking our number 1 spot, we have the Fountain of Youth. In the movies, Davy Jones urgently tries to locate the Fountain of Youth because he simply wants to live forever, haunting the 7 seas. As said, Jack Sparrow set off on a small vessel to locate this, while taunting Davy Jones about an immortal Jack Sparrow. I mean, that would be pretty awesome, right? But they soon realize that they're not the only ones looking for it. So what is so special about this Fountain of Youth? Well, legend goes that the fountain is able to restore the youth of anyone who drinks or bathes in its water. In the movie, it was located on a mysterious island in the Caribbean. However, its real locations aren't known. All that is known is that whoever finds it is never able to tell the story. Well, just for future reference, who wants to go to the journey for this fountain when they hit a midlife crisis? At a number 10 spot, we have blood falls. No, these waterfalls don't actually produce real blood. Sorry guys. Blood falls is a natural phenomenon in Antarctica that gets its name from the reddish-brown color of the water that flows from it. It is located on the Taylor Glacier, which is part of the McMurdo Dry Valleys in East Antarctica. The water that flows from the blood falls is high in iron, which gives it this reddish color in the first place. The source of the water at Blood Falls was a mystery for years. Scientists believed that the water was coming from a lake beneath the glacier, but they're unable to find any sort of evidence of such a lake. It was not until recently that researchers were able to confirm that the water comes from a lake that is trapped beneath the glacier, which is about 2 million years old. The lake is cut off from the surface and has been isolated for such a long time that it becomes highly saline and contains high levels of iron. The water from the lake flows through the cracks in the glacier and emerges at the Blood Falls, where it mixes with seawater from the coast. The combination of the high salt content and the iron gives the water its distinctive red color. Blood Falls is an important site for scientific research as it provides insight into the history of Antarctica and the processes that shape the continent over time. But hey, most people don't even care about that because it looks like blood. Makes for a way better story. Number 9, Martian meteorites. Allen Hills 84001 or ALH 84001 is a meteorite that was discovered in 1984 in the Allen Hills region of Antarctica. The meteorite is believed to have originated from Mars, and it is one of the oldest known meteorites from the planet. ALH 84001 has garnered significant attention from scientists and the media due to the possibility that it could contain evidence of past life on Mars. In 1996, a team of scientists led by David McKee of NASA's Johnson Space Center published a paper in the journal Science that claimed to have found evidence of microbial life in the meteorite. The team claimed that they had found small structures within the meteorite that resembled fossilized bacteria, as well as chemicals that could have been produced by living organisms. The discovery of possible signs of past life on Mars sparked intense debate among scientists and the general public, and it still remains a topic of scientific investigation to this day. Although some scientists have challenged the conclusions of the 1996 study, others have continued the study of the meteorite and searched for further evidence of past life on Mars. Now the meteorite is currently housed at the National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., so if you ever want to see real Martian material, this is the place to go. Number 8, the strongest winds on the planet. Antarctica is known as the windiest continent on Earth due to several factors. One of the factors is the lack of obstacles at the surface, such as hills, buildings, or trees, which allows the wind to flow freely. In addition, some areas of the continent have large slopes that can generate intense winds, and the presence of large temperature contrasts can create strong winds due to the resulting pressure differences. The strongest winds in Antarctica, called the katabatic winds, occur in the coastal regions only. These winds are caused by the movement of dense cold air from high elevations to the coast, where it accelerates and can reach velocities of over 200 kilometers per hour. These winds are so strong that they can even transport sea ice away from the coast in the winter, leaving the ocean ice-free despite the freezing temperatures. The highest wind ever recorded here in Antarctica was at a French base back in 1972, with winds reaching up to 320 kilometers per hour, 200 miles per hour just for you Americans. The most odd thing about this is that most of the time, it isn't even snowing here, but instead it's due to the strong winds picking up everything on the ground and just moving it around. At a number 7 spot with antibiotic resistant bacteria. Researchers from the University of Chile have discovered that certain bacteria in Antarctica have genes that give them natural antibiotic and antimicrobial resistance. Yup, just went through one pandemic, looks like we're eventually going to encounter another one. Anyways, these genes, which allow the bacteria to survive in extreme conditions are contained in mobile DNA fragments that can be easily transferred to other bacteria. The researchers collected samples from the Antarctic Peninsula between 2017 and 2019 and found that Pseudomonas bacteria, which is a common group in the region, are not pathogenic but can be a source of resistant genes that are resistant to common disinfectants. The researchers raised concerns that climate change could increase the risk of infectious diseases spreading from the polar regions, which just means that the ice is containing global level dangers and it's just a matter of time for it to melt and release it to the world. Number 6. Weird life forms. Scientists conducting research in Antarctica have made a surprising discovery of stationary sponge-like creatures living in a submerged region beneath the ice shelf. These organisms, which are similar to sea sponges, are able to survive in complete darkness at temperatures of -2.2 degrees Celsius and a distance of 260 kilometers from the open sea, which is something that a few known life forms are able to achieve. The discovery raises many questions for scientists, including how the creature got there, how long they were there for, and what they feed on. It is also unclear whether these creatures are common throughout Antarctica or if they're only found in this exact region. This is the first record of a community living in the depths of an ice shelf, and it challenges current theories about the development of life. Climate change and the increasing collapse of ice shelves in recent years have made it urgent for scientists to study and protect these ecosystems before they are destroyed. However, reaching these creatures, which are 260 kilometers beneath the surface, will require new and innovative methods of study. In the hunt for a list, we have the Piri-Reis map. The Piri-Reis map is a historical document that has garnered much attention and controversy over the years, more specifically for showing that Antarctica was ice-free. Created in the early 16th century by Ottoman Turkish admiral and the cartographer Piri-Reis, the map is known for its detailed and accurate depiction of the coast and features of the New World. This included South America, the Caribbean, and parts of the east coast of North America. In addition to these features, the map also includes notes of the geography, climate, and indigenous people of the regions depicted. However, it is the depiction of the northern coast of Antarctica of the Piri-Reis map that has sparked the most controversy. According to the map, the northern coast of Antarctica is shown as being ice-free, which some believe suggests that the continent was mapped before it was covered in ice. This idea has been met with skepticism, obviously, as there is no historic or scientific evidence to even support it. In fact, geological evidence suggests that the latest date that the Queen Maud land in Antarctica could have been charted as an ice-free state is around 4000 BC. Whether or not the Piri-Reis map truly holds the key to a lost civilization or an ancient mystery remains to be seen, but one thing is for certain: it continues to captivate the imagination and spark debate among historians and researchers to this day. Number 4. Mount Erebus. Mount Erebus is an active stratovolcano located on Ross Island in Antarctica. It is the highest volcano in Antarctica and the southernmost active volcano on Earth. Mount Erebus is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, which is a region around the Pacific Ocean that is prone to earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, which also means it is the most active volcano in Antarctica and has been continuously erupting since 1972. The volcano is known for its persistent degassing lava lake, which is one of the only few in the world. The most obvious danger is the risk of volcanic eruptions, which can release ash, lava, and other volcanic materials. These materials can cause damage to infrastructure and disrupt transportation, as well as posing an extreme risk to people who live near the volcano. But obviously it's Antarctica, so not a lot of people live here. Unrelated to the dangers of the volcano, but there was a horrific event that took place on Mount Erebus as well, which was when Air New Zealand McDonnell Douglas DC-10 aircraft crashed into the side of the volcano. The plane was carrying 257 people, including passengers and the crew, and all aboard were killed in the crash. This has led many people in the area to believe to not only worry about the volcano, but also the spirits of these people who passed away from this plane ride. Number 3. Lake Vostok. Lake Vostok is a large subglacial lake located in Antarctica beneath the Russian Vostok Station. It is the largest of the subglacial lakes in Antarctica and one of the largest in the world. However, it is located 4,000 meters beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet and is covered by thick layers of ice. It is thought to be one of the most isolated and pristine bodies of water on Earth, as it has been cut off from the surface for millions of years. Lake Vostok was first discovered in the 1970s by Russian scientists using satellite imagery and ice-penetrating radar. The lake is named after Russian Vostok Station, which is located on the ice sheet above it. Scientists believe that Lake Vostok could contain unique and diverse life forms, as it has been isolated from the surface for such a long time. This has caused many conspiracists claiming that the lake contains dangerous viruses and ever more concerning predators. In 2012, Russian scientists successfully drilled down to the lake and collected samples of water and ice from its surface. The findings revealed thousands of bacteria, pollen, and all sorts of marine organisms. 2 mummified penguins. Ornithologist Stephen Emsley made a surprising discovery while exploring the coast of Antarctica's Ross Sea in 2016. They found the corpses of both newly dead and mummified Adelie penguins. Emsley excavated some of the remains and took them back to his lab for radiocarbon analysis, which revealed that some of the remains were nearly 800 years old, while others were as ancient as 5,000 years old. Emsley believes that the corpses were frozen in ice and preserved for centuries, and that the warming climate caused the ice to melt and reveal the ancient penguin colony. You can only imagine seeing an entire penguin graveyard. It would definitely be a pretty unsettling thing to see, especially seeing them fully intact due to the cold conditions. Emsley's analysis also revealed that the penguin colony at the site had experienced 3 waves of occupation, with the last wave occurring 800 to 1,000 years ago. Emsley also speculates that the penguins abandoned the colony during the onset of the Little Ice Age, which covered the area in ice and snow and likely blocked the penguins' access to the ocean. This discovery is in the documentary named Secrets in the Ice, so if you ever want to see what they saw, I highly recommend seeing this. Number 1, the Singing Ross Ice Shelf. The Ross Ice Shelf is a large thick mass of floating ice that extends from the continent of Antarctica into the Southern Ocean. It's famous for the sounds it makes, which many say is reminiscent of a didgeridoo or the drone of a horror film soundtrack. It is also the largest ice shelf in the world, covering an area of about 500,000 square miles. The Ross Ice Shelf is constantly in motion, with ice flowing from the continent out onto the shelf. This movement can cause the ice to crack and creak, which is the real reason why some people have reported hearing a sound coming from the ice shelf. There are several possible explanations for this phenomenon. One theory is that the sound is caused from the ice shelf's motion and the friction between the ice and the underlying rock. Another possibility is that the sound is caused from the vibration of the ice shelf as it moves and flexes. Regardless of the cause, the sound is a fascinating and mysterious aspect of the ice shelf that continues to intrigue scientists and the general public to this day. Starting our list at number 10, we have the ningen. Japanese researchers and fishermen who sail close to Antarctica have only recently started reporting seeing this creature. The ningen has been described as a whale-like humanoid that is white in color and has human-like arms, and sometimes it walks as a bipedal. Oh yeah, it's also 65 to 100 feet long, so it's pretty hard to miss. One story goes that a research crew set sail to Antarctica. As they looked off in the distance, they observed what they initially thought was a submarine. However, as they kept getting closer, the creature would become aware of their presence and would dive into the icy waters. Some say they are able to use their hind legs to walk on land, making them an issue in the waters as well as on the land. I guess Aquaman got some competition now. At number 9, we have the freshwater lake under the ice. There are hundreds of subglacial lakes in Antarctica. Lake Vostok is the most mysterious one. It's estimated to be the size of Lake Ontario, and it's almost 3 miles below the ice sheets that cover the land. This would be a great spot for an introvert, wouldn't it? Despite the below freezing temperatures, scientists claim that the lake remains a liquid because of the pressure above from the ice combined from the pressure below from Earth's geothermal heat. The lake is located directly below a Russian station, and it's said that the Russians drilled a 3-mile hole through the ice and down to the lake. As they collected samples from the lake, they discovered that life actually existed below. Not just bacteria and microorganisms, but it was reported that organism 46b was found there. Russian explorer Dr. Anton Paldalka claims that during his exploration of the lake, he saw the creature firsthand, reporting it to be a 14-tentacle squid-like creature around 30 to 40 feet long. Coming in at number 8, we have the ghost of Shackleton. In 1915, explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton and his crew set off on a voyage to explore the South Pole. However, before they could make it to Antarctica, the ship they were on got trapped and crushed by the ice. The crew managed to hop on a lifeboat and travel hundreds of miles to safety. Ernest Shackleton miraculously survived, but he didn't stop there. He decided to travel once again but would pass away from a heart attack and was buried on Ross Island in the South Pole. Now it's said that his hut, which stands to this day, is actually haunted by his ghost. At number 7, we have the spirits of Ross Island. In November 1979, Air New Zealand Flight 901 would fly right into Mount Erebus on Rose Island. This crash killed all 237 passengers and 20 crew on board. Instead of leaving them in the cold, the bodies were found kept at McMurdo Station nearby. Those who visit the base leave with a feeling of unease and discomfort, similar to the feeling that they're trespassing in a place they're just not wanted. Coming in at number 6, we have Jenny the Ghost Ship. This is a story of a ship that was found before it was lost. As the story goes, in 1840, Hope came across the ship, Jenny, completely frozen in ice in an Antarctic Drake Passage. Crew members of the Hope reported that it first looked like a battered ship, but as they approached, they noticed that it was something much darker. The crew saw 7 men standing on the deck of this ghostly ship. However, they were standing frozen solid. The rest of the crew, including the captain, were also found frozen to death. As they hit the captain's quarters, they read the ship's last log saying, quote, May 4th, 1823, no food for 71 days, and I am the only person left alive. The ship set sail all the way back in 1823, which meant that it was frozen in ice for almost 20 years. Man, people were so crazy back in the day. Imagine being in the 1800s with these kind of ships and thinking, let's travel to a cold and isolated place. What a great idea. However, one thing is for certain, the Jenny ghost ship was never seen again. And some say it's still frozen in the ice sheets where the crew members are waiting to be liberated once again. Right at our number 5 spot, we have the singing ice. The Ross Ice Shelf in Antarctica is emitting tones reminiscent of a didgeridoo, or the soundtrack of a horror film. The sounds are created when wind whips across the snow dunes, causing the ice to vibrate. Or could it be the ice is alive? The Ross Ice Shelf is the largest of its kind and is estimated to be around the size of France. The rough surface of the ice shelf lets out an almost continuous hum of low tones as the wind passes through. The vibrations are too low to be heard by the human ear, but accelerated recordings reveal the mysterious sounds of the ice. Stealing our number 4 spot, we have, after the World War II, it was believed that the Germans took all of the research to Norway and eventually from Norway into Argentina. And from Argentina, it would head to Antarctica where they had a secret base in New Schaubenland. The Germans certainly had intellectual scientists and groundbreaking technology, but they just didn't have enough resources to sustain their progress. That's one of the world's biggest issues, finite resources. Germans specifically lacked oil, and we know how far countries will go for oil. They also needed electricity and the facilities to manufacture weapons, so this made Antarctica their new hotspot. It's said that there are many secret bases scattered all around the area where many Germans went into hiding or started to develop weapons of mass destruction. No, I'm not talking about the ones in Afghanistan, but weapons so powerful that it could have changed the tide of the whole war. At our number 3 spot, we have the ice wall. Alright, you flat earthers, welcome back, and here's one for you. Well, there's a theory that says there's a huge 140-foot ice wall that surrounds the continent of Antarctica. It's also said that the shelf of ice is several hundred meters thick. This theory was first brought up when British naval officer and polar explorer Sir James Clark Ross ventured to Antarctica. Upon seeing the massive ice wall, he said, quote, "It was an obstruction of such character as to leave no doubt in my mind as to our future proceedings. It would be impossible to conceive a more solid-looking mass of ice." Sir Ross would spend the next several years navigating around, but beyond the 100-foot wall was anyone's guess. Literally no one knows how far it really goes or what exists beyond it. All airlines and ships have agreed to avoid the area completely since, due to severe weather conditions, and in one case a New Zealand flight crashed there, causing all passengers to die. All the way at our number 2 spot, we have Operation High Jump. In 1947, Richard Burt and 4,000 other soldiers were assigned to this classified mission called Operation High Jump. The government informed the soldiers that this operation was just an expedition to scan the land of Antarctica. They journeyed through the land to look for any occupying bases. It was said that even before the incident continent at Pearl Harbor, Nazis occupied a base down in Antarctica. And since they have been losing the war, it made sense to see if they were hiding there. However, when they arrived on the continent, it was not Nazis they encountered. All 4,000 men, including Richard, claimed to see the hollow earth entrance. Here they saw an ancient race consisting of reptilian-like creatures, just like a bunch of Mark Zuckerbergs. In Richard Byrd's journal, he says that once they came in contact with the ancient race, they were met with hostility. They quickly found out about their advanced technology and devastating weapons, and had no choice but to flee. Richard had documented all of his expeditions, so in an attempt to silence him, the US government decided to confiscate the journal as soon as he got back. This is where it gets real. In 1957, Richard Byrd did an interview about the operation in secret, but after 3 months he would die in his sleep, possibly from the government silencing him. But wait, his son was in charge of delivering the speech honoring his dad's achievements and accolades, including Operation High Jump. And guess what happened to his son? He could never give the speech as they found his body in an empty warehouse 3 weeks later. The government is working overtime. Whatever Richard found was too special to be unveiled to the public. Well, at least not yet. Taking our #1 spot, we have that someone's always watching. The harsh Antarctic conditions and varying sunlights have been known to cause hallucinations. These would cause many explorers to feel the presence of another when no one is truly there. This phenomenon is known as the third man factor, and it was alluded in T.S. Eliot's 1922 poem, The Wasteland. This poem describes instances where explorers feel or see a presence of another, such as shadows and voices. This specific reference was inspired by Ernest Shackleton's Antarctic expeditions, where every member of the group was believed to have shared the same experience. The event is supposed to bring comfort to those who are going through the most desperate and traumatic times of their lives. Others refer to the third man as a guardian angel or an imaginary friend. Therefore, it's not unreasonable to assume that it plays a big part in the final moment of some unfortunate people's lives. In my opinion, seeing another ghost figure in Antarctica would not give me comfort, but would probably speed up the process of me dying. At #10 spot, we have the Haunted Igloo Hotel. Located in Cantwell, Alaska, is one of the most unique hotels you'll ever see. However, can we call it a hotel if it's never officially been opened up to people? I guess not. Well, sometime in the 1970s, a man named Leon Smith began the construction of this building. His original plan was to make it a never-before-seen hotel, but over the years, it never managed to open due to various code violations. For example, they had undersized windows, which didn't even meet the requirement of the state. And in the end, the building was too big to demolish, so it just stood there for the next 4 decades. Now, apart from this hotel looking pretty eerie, what makes it so scary? Well, because this is an area notorious for grizzly bear attacks, and many have been reported in the area surrounding the hotel. But what makes many stray far, far away is that some have said they saw a woman in white who haunts the ruins. She can be seen looking out of the windows and sometimes by the entrance. At our #9 spot, we have the Baggage Towers. Before you arrive in Whittier, Alaska, you must go through a long, narrow tunnel, and when you get out, the place already has this creepy atmosphere. However, as you drive down this town, one building may stand out to you, and that's the Baggage Towers. At one point, this building held the entire population of the city, all while being used for other public facilities such as stores and even churches. They eventually gave it the nickname, the town under one roof, and it just makes sense. With everyone in the town being under the same roof, it was bound to happen that some restless spirits stayed in the building as well. And at one point, residents of the building reported a strange, dark, shadowy figure walking and even crawling around the hallways late at night. In the rooms, they would hear strange voices coming from dark places, telling them just to come closer. And one notorious spirit that most residents know is the man that could be heard whistling across the building. Now, locals claim that it's even worse when snowfall hits because it just forces them to stay trapped inside of this supposed haunted building. At #8 spot, we have Badarka Road. Many say this road exists, while others claim it was completely made up, but what could be true is the terrifying stories attached to this road. Apparently located in Chudjik is a road known to be haunted by a man and his young daughter. This is all because they lost their lives on this road and have never been put to rest. Story goes that a man and his 5-year-old daughter decided to drive down this stretch of road in order to gather firewood for their cabin that was nearby. When they stopped, the father grabbed his axe and proceeded to chop down a tree. When he was on to his next tree, he wanted a small break, so he kept his axe lodged into the tree. However, when he turned his back, his daughter wanted to impress him and she took out the axe, which caused the entire tree to fall on top of her, killing her instantly. The father was so distraught and just sat there with her lifeless body until he passed away from hypothermia. Now if you happen to find this road and drive down it around 3 AM, you may catch the father holding his bloody daughter asking for a ride. At number 7 spot, we have Chased by a UFO. On November 17th, 1986, Japan Airlines cargo flight 1628 was making a trip from Paris all the way to Narita, which is really close by to Tokyo, Japan. It was a pretty normal flight until they made it over eastern Alaska. This is when the crew began to spot 2 unidentified flying objects close by to their left side. They described the aircrafts having 2 rectangular arrays, which is probably their thrusters. And when these aircrafts got too close, the pilots of the Japan flight noted that they could feel the heat on their face. One of the aircrafts appeared to be twice the size of the cargo flight, and they said it kind of looked like a mothership of some sort. The pilots tried to do evasive maneuvers in order to avoid these UFOs, but they still continued their pursuit for little under an hour. Once the 2 aircrafts left the plane alone, a third one came out of nowhere and began to trail them. The pilots decided to contact air traffic control to identify the aircraft, but nothing could be distinguished. After the end of the 3-month investigation, they concluded that there wasn't enough material for proof, although they'd accepted the descriptions that the crew had left them. So this still remains unsolved, but who knows what the crew actually saw. At our number 6 spot, we have Scary Mary. One of the most famous legends told to many Alaskans is the story of Scary Mary. The story begins in the height of the Klondike Gold Rush, which occurred between 1896 to 1899. One day, a young beautiful woman named Mary came to the Golden North Hotel in Skagway with her fiance. They loved each other, and by the first day in the hotel, they had already made plans to marry one another. So the fiance decided to go off and get a fortune in the gold fields. However, as time went by, the man never ended up returning. Throughout this whole time, Mary was patiently waiting for his arrival back at the hotel. But at one point, she decided to lock herself in the room, knowing her fiance was probably never going to return. After another week, the hotel keepers decided to break down her door, only to find her deceased body while wearing a wedding dress that was meant for her wedding day. Now visitors tell us that she hasn't ever checked out at the hotel. People walking outside claim to see a pale figure wearing a wedding dress looking outside of the windows, while others claim to see her on the ceilings looking down at them when they're sleeping. In the hump of our list, we have the Eldred Rock Lighthouse. Right off of Alaska's coastline is a small island notorious for the disasters that happened around it. This is the Eldred Rock Lighthouse in Haines Area, Alaska. The lighthouse stood strong for over 100 years, but it has been haunted ever since its construction. During the 1896 gold rush, many steamboats were bringing gold miners across the body of water that surrounds the lighthouse, and unfortunately, many of these ships didn't survive the journey. The most famous wreck was during February 1898, when the steamship named the Clara Nevada hit the rock with as many as 75 lives being lost. Ever since that disaster, the island has been haunted by the souls of the Clara Nevada. All the lighthouse keepers report the feeling of being watched when they go out on a nighttime walk, and some have even claimed to see shadowy figures peeking out of the water near the coastlines. At number 4 spot, we have University of Alaska Poltergeist. The University of Alaska's Wendy William Auditorium seems to be a notorious place on campus for having a few of their own poltergeists. One of these being John Wendell Wendy Williamson himself. He was a former music professor who used to teach at the school, and students and staff members nowadays claim his spirit still lives in the room, since a lot of overnight staff will catch music being played in the auditorium only to find out that no one is in the whole hall. Psychics and other paranormal investigators have gone to the auditorium and said there are 5 other entities inside. These include a shadowy man seen in the backstage, an aggressive man who picks on brunettes, a teenage guy who is very welcoming, and a white lady who used to be a former student, and alongside a little girl that can be heard giggling during the lectures. Just imagine, you pay thousands of dollars to go to school only to be haunted by a family of ghosts. At number 3 spot, we have the Kwalupalik. The legend of the Kwalupalik comes from the Inuit people and their icy Arctic waters. They're actually somewhat considered mermaids, but unlike any other regular mermaid, there is nothing attractive about this creature. These creatures are often depicted as having fins that jut out of their heads, backs and arms, and their webbed feet and hands are topped with long sharp claws. All of this is enough to strike tears into the hearts of the children that the Kwalupalik preys upon. Only these children will catch a glimpse of their face, which resembles a woman's face that has turned green and bloated from rotting and being under the sea for a long time. Those who have sighted this creature report that they can only be seen for an instant before they are completely gone, but the children victims of this creature would not be so lucky. Their ways of killing involve leaping out of the water, sinking their sharp claws into your flesh, and dragging you into the water to drown you. At number 2 spot, we have the Alaskan Triangle. Triangle. We all know about Bermuda's Devil Triangle that consumes ships and planes alike, but Alaska has their very own as well. The triangle connects from Alaska's largest city of Anchorage to Juneau in the southeast and Barrow in the north. Similar to Bermuda's Triangle, over the past 50 years, over 20,000 people and several planes have gone missing in this area. The mystery of the disappearance is inconclusive, but many of the surrounding indigenous tribes claim that restless demons and trickster spirits lure people to an icy death. Some say there's even a shape-shifting demon called the Kushtaka that inhabits the forest of the Alaskan Triangle. He is described to approach those who are lost or weak, and once your trust grows with them, they will drag you deeper and deeper into the wilderness and tear you limb for limb, preventing your soul from ever reincarnating. In other words, there's not much to do here other than being lost and potentially encountering this bloodthirsty creature. All the way at our number 1 spot with the Iliamna Lake Monster. Lake Iliamna is located in a very remote region of southwest Alaska, and when I say remote, I mean it, because in order to get to this lake, you must either go by boat or one of those float planes. It also happens to be the largest lake in Alaska and the second largest in the entire US, so best believe this large body of water has more than a few creatures lurking its depths. Native stories speak about a large aquatic creature that has been the reason for many deaths around the area. Those who have seen the beast have said it ranges from 10 to 30 feet in length with a square-like head. It's so powerful, it's said that it attacks small boats off of blunt force alone, meaning it'll ram its head onto the boat until it completely destroys it. The natives call the creature a Gonagadet, which is depicted as a fish god, or some consider the monster to be a Jig-ik-nak, which are these fish-like monsters that travel in groups to attack canoes and even kill warriors. To start our list right, at number 10, we have the Queen of Spades. Basically the Russian version of Bloody Mary, this supernatural being is said to grant wishes to anyone who summons her, but at a price, of course. As the Joker once said, if you're good at something, never do it for free. To summon her, similar to Bloody Mary, you need to go into a dark room with a mirror and light a candle in front of it. Once you have that set up, you need to place a Queen of Hearts playing card right against the mirror. Then, taking lipstick, you need to draw a door with some stairs on the mirror. Now in front of the mirror, you need to clear your mind and close your eyes and say, Queen of Spades, come. 3 times. While you're saying her name, visualize the Queen of Spades opening the door and walking the stairs from the lipstick drawing. This part is where many report hearing evil laughter just before they encounter the Queen of Spades. Once she appears to you, you need to hold your candle and say your wish out loud. Once you're done, blow out your candle. If not, her spirit may come out of the mirror and stay in our world. Coming in at number 9, we have the Black Curtains. This Russian story started off as a simple request from a mother to her daughter, asking her to go to the store to purchase some curtains for the home. She urged the daughter to not buy any black curtains under any circumstances. However, when the girl got to the shop, she saw that there are only black curtains. So despite her mother's wishes, she decided to get them rather than go home empty-handed. When she arrived home, her mom was upset, but since they had no curtains, she put them up anyway. And this is where things get worse. During that night, the girl's father was strangled, and the night after, the same would happen to her mother and her brother. The traumatized girl rushed to the police, and it was decided that they would set up cameras and microphones all over the home to investigate the murders. They ordered the girl to go to bed as normal, but as time went by, the black curtain appeared to stretch and move, reaching for the girl in her bed. The police immediately opened fire and the curtain began to bleed out and let out a demonic screech as it fell to the ground. Stealing our number 8 spot, we have the Old Lady of Ostankino. This is a 5-century-old story of a lady living in the district of Ostankino, Moscow. The strange thing is that this lady only appears to Russian leaders, not other citizens. It is said that she appears to Russian leaders to warn them of upcoming dangers such as attacks, sicknesses, plagues, you name it. In return, this old lady only asked them to never farm on the land that she appeared on, in Ostankino. Despite getting useful advice, a powerful ruler of Ostankino disobeyed these orders and ordered men to start digging in the land. The lady was angry and summoned all the spirits of the land, and it was said that they possessed the residents of the city and led them all to their dooms. But at number 7, we have Anatoly Moskvin, the Corpse Collector. This is definitely a case where life is stranger than fiction. Legend has it that a mysterious person roams Russia, waiting for people to kidnap. He then kills them, preserves them, then puts their mummified bodies on display. It's a horror story fit for nightmares. This mysterious person was later found and arrested, going by the name of Anatoly Moskvin. He was reported to have killed 29 women, would mummify them, and would turn them into large dolls. His parents even thought they were large regular dolls. Anatoly was no stranger to the cemetery and had visited with his friends on multiple occasions. Here is where they said he discovered his sinister hobby. He even claimed that he was empathetic to the corpses, as his sole purpose was to bring them back alive. Securing our number 6 spot, we have the domovoi. The domovoi is a house spirit in Slavic folklore. It is a masculine, typically small, bearded, and sometimes covered in hair all over. According to some traditions, the domovoi takes on the appearance of current or former owners of the house, but has a gray beard, sometimes with tails or little horns. It is the protector of the house, and every home is said to have its own domovoi. The domovoi protected not only the human inhabitants of the house, but their herds and household animals as well. In some areas, Slavs believed that prosperity and well-being could not exist in a new home until the head of the family died and became its guardian spirit. Right in the hump of our list, we have the infamous Baba Yaga. This is a Slavic folklore that is commonly told around Russia. The Baba Yaga is a supernatural entity or witch that takes the form of an elderly lady. She is said to be the refugee of the dead, meaning this is the form she had taken after coming back from the afterlife. Appearing as weak and fragile, this would be a good way for the Baba Yaga to disguise what her true sinister intentions were. She is described as having bright red eyes and sharp metal or stone teeth. Her house is reported by witnesses to be a dark house deep in the woods that is standing on 2 chicken legs. Her house is said to be moved around by Baba Yaga's power to travel to different locations to find more victims. When people encounter the Baba Yaga, she is said to be helpful on some occasions, but most of the time, she would be dangerous and bloodthirsty. For example, in one story, she would do something heroic like locating a missing bride, but in another story, she is a child-eating monster who can't stop. A famous disaster takes our number 4 spot, the Chernobyl Blackbird. Just a few days before the infamous Chernobyl nuclear plant disaster, many workers at the plant reported seeing a large, dark, and mutated man with gigantic wings. This humanoid creature was given the name Black Bird of Chernobyl, and despite the fact it had no head, it had piercing red eyes that would send chills to the spines of anyone caught looking. Before the nuclear disaster, workers claimed to have been plagued by terrifying dreams and many instances of bad luck. Fast forward to the day of the disaster, and now workers have reported seeing a large black bird-like creature with a 40-foot wingspan flying through the smoke of Chernobyl. Many people believe these creatures to be a bad omen, since they are shown around history to appear before tragic events. You should definitely know this one, but at number 3 we have the Russian sleep experiment. This experiment was conducted in the 1940s in a top-secret Soviet facility. The Soviets used 5 Gulag prisoners to test what no sleep did to their brains and body in 30 days. They promised freedom when, or rather, if they survived. They would use air stimulants to keep them awake for all of the days. In the course of 5 days, the situation went out of control. The subjects blocked observation and went all kinds of crazy with constant screaming and moaning. Then, on the 9th day, a prisoner was screaming so loud that he completely tore his vocal cords right off. Then, on day 14, they tried to evoke a reaction by telling the prisoners they would open the chamber, but they would get a voice back saying, "We don't want to be freed." Then on day 15, after another day of silence, they decided to open the chamber, where they saw the unspeakable. When they opened it, they immediately noticed one of the prisoners was dead due to mutilation. As the soldiers were taking out the other prisoners out, they noticed chunks of human meat all over the room. The other 4 had muscles and skin torn off from their bodies, which all seemed to be self-inflicted. Their abdominal organs had also been removed. As soldiers were trying to get them out, they began begging to stay inside the chamber with the gas on. But due to this traumatizing sight, the witnessing soldiers would follow a similar fate, with many dying and others reported ripping off their own reproductive organs. Beethoven would be shocked at our number 2 spot, but we have the red piano. This story begins when these parents bought a red piano for their daughter, who had all kinds of desire to finally play on one. Once she had started playing, she couldn't stop. Just like a young Beethoven, after hours of playing, her fingers would begin to hurt. Her parents relieved her by telling her that it was normal and that's just part of the learning process. When she went back to play the piano a few days later, she found that the piano was broken. The parents asked the lady to fix it, but oddly, she asked everyone to exit the room to ensure that there were no distractions. After it was fixed, the girl played once again, but would fall ill after a while of playing on it. Then, the piano broke again, with the pair having to call the same lady to fix. Due to the curiosity of how she fixed it, the parents decided to peep through the keyhole of the room to see what she was doing. The lady was found opening the piano, pulling out a jar of blood and drinking it. When the police inspected the piano, it was discovered that the piano had tiny needles on the keys, so every time the daughter played, she was really getting drained of her own blood. Taking our number 1 spot of our list, we have the Chapayoskos. Once there was a couple, Elena and Alexei, who worked at a chemical plant. Their love for each other was very strong. However, one day before their wedding, an accident occurred. Alexei was at the chemical plant when a chemical fire bursted out of nowhere, eventually making the whole plant explode. Unfortunately for her, it was too late to escape, and he passed away in the fire along with one other co-worker. Upon hearing the devastating news, Elena, with no intentions to live anymore, threw herself in front of a train. Eyewitnesses said that she wore a white gown before jumping on the track, which was the same outfit that her grandmother gave her for the wedding. She was later buried in the municipal cemetery, and now people who decide to visit their loved ones at the cemetery report seeing Elena in her white gown strolling through the grounds. Apparently, her ghost is still looking for her loved one Alexei.